Hello, this is RICKY, the Android guy. Alright guys, this is the big side-by-side comparison you all want to see. The Galaxy S6 versus the iPhone 6. We're going to see which one really is the best. These are the two top-selling phones right now in the market. So let's see which one is truly better and in which category. Let's find out. Now, when it comes to look and feel, if you've looked over the past couple of years, the iPhone has almost always beaten Samsung in this category. However, with these two, we have a different story because, of course, this is one of the biggest things that Samsung changed this year. And with the iPhone, we have the standard design on the front, just like the Samsung. So really, we have to go to the side and the back to really make a distinguishable difference. So first of all, with the back between these two. Both don't have the best looking camera on the back. On the iPhone, the antennas are a lot bigger and just really kind of take away a little bit from the aesthetic on the back, whereas the S6 has the antennas on the top and bottom, which make it a lot cleaner looking in comparison. Now, the other thing is the type of material they use on the back. One has aluminum, one has glass. So which one do you prefer? Well, when it comes to the aluminum, it's a little bit more slippery than the glass backing. But really what it takes away from is the aluminum will have better durability, but it might scratch easier. The white S6 doesn't have this problem, but the other colors will show fingerprints a lot more easily. And obviously the vulnerability is always in question of it cracking. Now on the sides, we have the iPhone, which has a rounder side, whereas the S6 only has rounder edges. But yet the side is a lot better off. It allows for a better grip. And this is something that is very subtle, but you notice it when you grip it. So what it came down to was which backing was preferred and which felt better in the hand. And overall, I've given this phone to multiple people, and they all agreed, what I thought originally was going to be the winner at first. That is that the S6 is the winner for the first time in a long time between the Samsung and iPhone in terms of look and feel. Now, when it comes to web browsing between two phones, the first thing we always take a look at is the screen resolution, simply because it gives us a good indication overall of how the clarity will be. Now, on the iPhone 6, we have a 1334 by 750, which gives us a 720p display, and that gives us a pixel per inch of 326. On the Galaxy S6, you have a insane 2560 by 1440, which gives us a 2K display, and which gives us a pixels per inch of 577. So this is a good idea to indicate just how big both phones are, how clear both phones are. Now we can also see over here as well that the S6 is slightly thinner, but not by much, because that's one question I know I've been getting a lot. All right, now let's check out in terms of speed for web browsing, which one loads faster. And let's check it out. And the iPhone finished first, and the S6 taking up the rear. All right, so we could see that the iPhone 6 finished first on that one. And now let's just see how moving up and down is. Really good on both. Now let's try double tapping. Kind of gave a different thing, but both of them respond almost instantaneously the same. Very sharp. And now pinch to zoom. Pinch to zoom is the same. So both overall in terms of web browsing are really good in terms of how they move and how they go along. You really can't complain about either one. You do get a bit more in the screen with Samsung, is just when we see each article and where they start and where they finish. You can see because of the height, you get a little bit more. But overall, just because it did load the page quicker, we are going to have to give it to the iPhone 6, just because in our comparison, it tended to load web pages a bit quicker. Now, you can't blame this on the screen resolution if you choose to, but overall, if you want quicker web pages, it's going to go to the iPhone 6. However, both phones are really good when it comes to this. Now, when it comes to sound quality, we always take a look at speaker placement, and both speakers are on the bottoms of the phone. And these two were fairly close, to be honest. But let's play it and let's see if we get the same result that we got before we filmed. So we're going to start on the iPhone, then go to the S6, then go to the iPhone, and then S6.
It's kind of crazy how the game is changed. The lights go on, they scream my name. The curtain goes down, I remain the same. But all that money don't equal the price of fame. From LA to New York, Seattle to the Bay, West overnight flights to Oahu, getting late. Y'all go down in Vegas, they know where we stay. Last show in Cali, headed down to the Staple now. With a dream, had my head in the clouds. Now I'm sleeping first class, got a bed in the clouds. Hit my pops to pick me up, and he said he was proud. King shit with a beanie on instead of a crown. Yeah, counting all my blessings. Shout out to the most high. Started from the bottom, now I'm sitting at the most high. Cheapsies to the business, now I'm literally so fly. Motivated by my brokenness, guess that's why they call it coach, right? Yeah.
Okay, so overall, the S6 was continuously louder on all of the music we played. So whether it be more vocals or whether it be more rap, it seemed to be louder. Now, I will give the iPhone this, that it had a little bit more bass, it sounded like, but then that also sounded to make it muffled at times as well in certain other songs. Overall, of the most people I asked, every single one of them said it was very close. But overall, they said the S6, just for being louder continuously on each song, wins it. So I do agree with that, and that is that overall, I think people do want louder phones than anything else, and the S6 is going to be louder than the iPhone 6. Alright, now we take a look at the video quality. We watch a lot of movies on our cell phones, so videos can be a big deal. And we obviously like to see them everywhere, from outside to indoors to everywhere, and we like to see the best quality. So we're going to be playing the same video on the iPhone 6 on the top and the Galaxy S6 down below, to see which one plays a better quality. Now, first and foremost, two things. One, these are both set to the brightest screen for each of them, and two, with the reason why we're doing a Samsung video is because they don't get flagged. So, for anyone that is wondering why. Alright, let's play them and see which one's better.
You need to see this. You gotta see this. Excuse me. Can I see that? Sure.
Have you seen this?
Can't believe you haven't seen this. Dude, I do not need to see that.
If we change this, then we should probably change that.
What, let me see it again? Yeah.
Hey, Nick. I left my phone at my desk.
I'll put it away for you.
Thanks.
When do you see this? You gotta see this. It's just curved.
Okay. So hopefully everyone could see the difference, but when it comes to video quality, Apple has yet to win one. And it's just because Samsung, when it comes to screens, you just can't beat it. Samsung makes both screens, and the AMOLED technology is just superior to the IPS technology that's a bit dated now at this point. So, yes, when it comes to overall video quality, you're going to prefer the Samsung Galaxy S6 over the iPhone 6. Now we come to the photo comparison between these two devices with the Galaxy S6 versus the iPhone 6 in photo quality. So at the very top, we're going to have all of the iPhone photos, and at the very bottom, we're going to have all the Galaxy S6 photos. And we're going to go through 4 different main categories. The first one we have up here is low light. Now, I definitely have to start off by commenting that on both phones, I focused on the apartments, not the street. Because one thing I will give the iPhone right away is if I did focus on the street, the iPhone would have beat this hands down. But I did focus on the apartment, so that's what we're going to focus on terms of the low light in this photo. So when we focus on here, we actually see a big difference between the two. Even though I focused on the apartments on the iPhone, it didn't allow more light to be let through as it did on the S6. Now you can tell this by the amount of light let through on each post. On this post, you see very little light through, and on this post, you see a lot more light being let through. Now, what this creates, though, can be noise or what's called a lens flare, which is what we have on the S6 and we don't have on the iPhone 6. As we zoom in, though, we see a bit of a difference, namely in, of course, details. So we're going to zoom in on the iPhone right here first, and we're going to notice 3 main things. One, you can't notice the bumps as much on this image right here for the tapestry, as well as right here. Just very pixelated. The tree is basically all blended in together, and the numbers, you can kind of make out the 2 and the 8, and you can guess that it's a 9.6, but you're basically guessing. Now, zoomed in at this same rate on the Galaxy S6 version, you can definitely see it is 9.6 to 8 and a lot more clearly. You're not just guessing, especially on the 6. You see a little bit more leaves on here, although in the middle it's still blended in, but definitely you can see more detail on here as well as here. The more light being let through just really allows you to see more things in the shot on the Galaxy S6 in comparison to the iPhone 6. We just see a lot more in the photo than we do on the iPhone 6, where everything is kind of in the shadows and you couldn't really see anything specific. So for that reason, in low light, again, if it was focused on the street, this is definitely more true than this one is. So because it's focused on the building, we're going to give this to the S6 just for, again, just being more true to what we're actually seeing and able to see what we're actually seeing. Now in the next category, we're going to go over details. So in terms of detail, I wanted to make this as fair as possible. So first of all, because of the S6 having more pixels, if I had focused on any general area, the S6 easily would have taken it from the iPhone 6. So what I did was I just pulled the camera out on both right away and took the photo. So that way it would be as fair as possible, because I felt if I did focus on any area, it would be unfair to the S6 in terms of detail. So all that being said and equal, on the first thing I have to mention is the blacks. And this is something I noticed more and more with indoor shots of the iPhone 6, and that is that it's just a very dull color when it comes to blacks. Right here and here, comparing to the S6, you just see the rubber on here for the Wiimote is actually black, where it's very faded here. And you notice that more on the game boxes as well. It's just kind of faded off on here, where on here it's faded, and on here you just see the depth and just different color dynamics between the different game titles. Now, when it comes to detail overall, however, let's get into it. So on certain things, definitely detail is going to be better. So we noticed it right away on the Mario Kart 8 and the 32, especially the 32 is much more noticeable for detail on the S6. Now, even when we get into things like the Wii U and the PS4, again, we notice a bit more detail, but that's a little bit harder to distinguish, especially with the PS4. The PS4, I feel like This PS4 right here is more detailed, but this one is less detailed, and you can kind of go back and forth between them. On the PS3, on the big one right here, on the Kingdom Hearts one, the S6 definitely takes it on the bottom here compared to the iPhone 6. And all around, it seems detail is just going to be a bit better off, and not to mention, which we're going to get into next, color reproduction. This is the color of my wall. This is a textured wall, which I do not have, but somehow the iPhone not only changed the color, but it makes it look like I have a textured wall, which I don't. I just have a flat, plain wall. So I thought that was kind of funny, and I was just like, wait, why does that look like I have a textured wall? So that is going to be the detailed photo. Now, what about color reproduction? So this is where the S6 honestly just dominates the iPhone 6, because color reproduction is something, especially indoors, and this has to deal with a lot of how each phone handles light, that the S6 is going to be better than the iPhone 6. So the S6 you can see right here, especially in the Family Feud part, in the purple, in the red, it's on the iPhone 6, it seems washed out, especially on the wits and wagers. It just seems very washed out. Whereas on here, it's vibrant, it's colorful, and again, it's the real colors. This is the color of my wall. This is not the color of my wall. This is the color of my carpet. This is someone else's carpet, it looks like. So it really just stands out a difference in terms of color reproduction. And this goes to show you for the iPhone, it's always been, everything has been automatic. But this time, Samsung stepped it up and did everything automatic, which is something they haven't done in the past, which is why these are such a different comparison compared to last year's S5. And it's simply because of the fact that the Galaxy S6 out of the box does auto HDR, does auto low light, it does adjustments to every single type of light there is, and it really shows in these photos. So for the last one, we're going to take a look at the most important for some people's, and that is selfie taking. That's right. How is your phone going to take selfies, and how will you look in them? Well, we can see right away a couple of differences. So I did take the same selfie with both phones, and for a selfie comparison, I do make it a little bit tough on both phones. So first thing I do, I actually make it so that there is no light above me at all. There's never any light above me. There's a light to the side, on this side, and there's a light above on the second floor. But there's no light above me. That way it can create a darkness in this area, and we can see how each phone handles it. Now, on the iPhone, you can kind of see that things are just, again, very washed out. It just kind of washes out everything in the photo, and you have a huge overexposure at the top, and this looks very grainy and pixelated on this side. On the Galaxy S6, the HDR mode is automatic even on the front-facing camera. So you have a much better experience of light where you can actually see the rails, and you can't on the iPhone. Not only that, but you get obviously a much, much wider shot. On the iPhone, it cuts out about here, and on the S6 you get this much more in your shot. For the S6 also, you get a lot more depth on this side, and my color complexion doesn't change as it does on each level of this iPhone 6 shot. Not to mention, of course, what Samsung's always known for, and that's blacks are black. Even outside, when I'm just showing you the photo and not on their screen, the black is black. On here, the iPhone 6 will just going to show faded black because of the light difference it's trying to make up for. And again, you get much of a wider shot. You can see my shirt more in this shot compared to the iPhone 6. So as we go back to all three, low light, because we were focusing on the building, you just get a lot more detail in low light with the Galaxy S6. In terms of detail overall, you are getting more on the S6 compared to the iPhone 6, simply because of the fact that you just get more true color, not only, which we're going to get into again, and just more detail overall when you just pull your camera out and take a shot. Color reproduction is just the worst comparison between these two because the S6 completely outclasses the iPhone 6. To be fair, I'm sure that's what the iPhone 6 will change on their next phone. And definitely when it comes to selfies, if you want to take better selfies, if you want to look good in your video chats, then you want to go with the Galaxy S6. Now, when it comes to gaming, this is interesting. First of all, both phones perform at a very high quality with games. Games don't lag, they look amazing on them. Both phones really perform great when it comes to games. However, it's just really an OS difference. So iPhone obviously has the advantage where they will get games first most of the time. So they'll have a few exclusives before Android gets them. However, pretty much all games do come to both OSs. Now, the advantage that Android has is that Android typically will always have the advantage of emulators. Although there are a few more on iOS now, still nowhere near the quality and consistency of Android. So what emulators are you can be able to play your PS1 games, or you can play PSP games, or Game Boy DS games, or N64 games, or arcade games. You really just have a plethora of games you can play, and they're just all available on Android. They're not so easy to get on iOS. So for that purpose, since both play games well and it's really just a preference, I'm going to call this one a tie. Depends on what you like more, new and exclusive titles first, or more old school gaming and real games on the Android. So depends on what you like on iOS or on Android. Whichever one you want, that's the best one to go with for gaming. Now when it comes to battery life, when I started this video, you will notice that the S6 was at 93% and the iPhone 6 was at 100%. And so I used both of them, and now it is 89% and 84%. So it went from a 7% difference to now a 5% difference. And when it comes to actually using the devices, the iPhone 6 typically, as we've seen just in the comparison, has drained, yes, a bit quicker in comparison to the S6. I would say this averages out to be about 45 minutes more of actual usage, and standby time, the S6 definitely beats it. So when you're not using both devices, the S6 just definitely it just keeps battery life much better than the iPhone 6. So when it comes to keeping battery life when you're not using it, the S6 seems to be definitely better compared to the iPhone 6. And of course, since you do have the different power saving modes, yes, on iPhone you can change to grayscale, but that's about it. Whereas on the S6 you can really get a tremendously long battery life of actual usage. Overall, for these purposes, I definitely will have to give battery life to the Galaxy S6. Now, when it comes to extras, well, with these two devices, there isn't much to say of hardware extras, actually. Overall, neither of them really has too many hardware extras. They both don't have expandable memory. They both don't have removable battery. And in terms of hardware, they both have fingerprint scanners. The S6 does have certain things like an IR blaster that can control your TV, your cable box, your sound system, even your Apple TV. And it also does have a heart rate sensor built in. In terms of software, well, the iPhone comes just standard with all your basics. Samsung does provide a few more, namely things we talked about earlier, like ultra power saving mode, private mode, and of course split screen. But one of the biggest extras definitely has to come from the fact of, at the lowest price point, you get 16 gigs here, whereas this one you get 32 gigs. So for all those differences in the extras category, we still have to give it to the S6, just because with Apple, you don't really get a lot more, even in terms of iCloud storage. You get 5 gigs here. Samsung gives you about, I think, 65 gigs on OneDrive. So overall, just in terms of all the extras that Apple gives you, You just get more extras with the Galaxy S6. Now, when it comes to price point, we always look at the price and if you get basically the same thing. With these two, however, it is kind of tricky. And let me explain why. So, if we go, we're going to go to two different carriers. And we're going to GSM ones just because those are the ones that typically more people want to know about if you want to buy it outright or if you want to take it somewhere else in the world. Alright, so for T-Mobile, this device is $649 and the S6 is going to be $679. So that's a $30 difference. Or if we go by the monthly plan, it's about $1 difference a month. Now, as we go to the other main GSM carrier in the US, we are going to go and see the difference of AT&T. So, with AT&T's pricing, we have the same price for a 2-year contract. So both are $199. However, in terms of the outright pricing, this one is $649 and this one is $684. So here's the main thing, and that is the storage option. At the lowest price, we get 32 gigs on this device and we get 16 gigs on this device. So for $30 more, you essentially get double the storage, which is a pretty good deal, I would say. But we've never really had this where we had a difference of price point and difference of storage. Typically they're the same. If we would raise these to the 64 gig price point, actually, they would be more closely related and basically the same. So for this purpose, we are going to call this a draw, since overall, at the lower price, you can get the iPhone cheaper for $30 in most carriers, or $35. Same price on a 2-year contract for each. However, with the S6 at the lowest price point, you do get double the storage. So it's up to you which one you think is better bang for your buck. In this case, I call it a draw. All right, time to tally them up and see who won. When it comes to look and feel, for the first time ever, Samsung beat the iPhone, coming in at a better look and feel. Just that glass backing and definitely the grip around the side feels a lot better. When it comes to web browsing, however, the iPhone does load pages on average quicker than the S6, so you have to give it to the iPhone when it comes to web browsing. When it comes to entertaining yourself with music or movies, however, the S6 is going to take it. Just better overall sound quality and definitely louder. And with movie playback, there's just no comparison, really. Now, the camera was close, but overall, the S6 has proven to be the better overall camera quality, especially when it comes to low-light photos. When it comes to gaming, it's really your preference, as both have their own advantages, but really, these are the top cell phones out there for gaming. When it comes to battery life, it's also going to go the S6, typically lasting about half an hour to an hour more, generally 45 minutes, but it just depends on how much is used on standby and how much is used on a regular basis. When it comes to extras, the S6 does take it just for simply having a few more hardware features like IR blaster as well as heart rate monitor. Also, though, at the lowest price point, you do get 16 gigs more, not to mention all the software stuff that Samsung offers that no one else has. When it comes to price point, however, we're going to have to call this a draw, simply because you do get more storage on the Samsung, but it costs you more, $30 less to get an iPhone. So overall, we're going to have to call that one a draw. Which means, though, the grand winner for this one is the Galaxy S6. Samsung really did have some issues with the S5, but it seemed to correct a lot of them, especially when it comes to the camera, overall battery life, and definitely when it comes to look and feel. For these reasons, I definitely recommend the S6. It's well worth it, and hopefully you'll take a look at it and let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. If you did like this video, please give a like, thumbs up. This has been RICKY, the Android Guy.